Hello, welcome to this first segment on the rise of the far right. Wonderful to have a lovely selection of guests with me here today. I am, of course, still joined by Mr. Curtis Daly of Turn Left, founder of Turn Left, no less, future of the left media. I'm also joined by Bonnie Craven, TSSA, and a long-time campaigner and activist, both in the Labour Party and not in the Labour Party. And I am joined by Claudia Webbe, former Labour MP for Leicester East, before becoming independent MP for Leicester East. Again, long-time campaigner on racism and for social justice. Welcome to all of you.
Good to be here.
Thank you for having
Right.
us. It's been a really interesting
Feeling good?
discussion.
Great. Can I get the first question then? When you look at the scale of far-right rallies and the rise of populist parties, there's lots of things that we've seen with Tommy Ten Names and his what did he call
Band
it?
of
The
Merry Men.
Unite the Kingdom March. Why do you think so many people are being pulled towards those kind of ideas now? What are the main forces driving this surge in far-right populism? Bonnie?
I think there's a bit of a lack of dialogue. There's a massive gap where people aren't feeling heard. People are feeling that they've been forgotten and left out by any of the establishment political parties. But I also think that there's been a growing problem with sort of a lack of education, lack of understanding each other. So that's a big problem. It's always easy for a government and the established media to other people and say, well, you know, it's not the rich people in the yachts that are causing you a problem. It's those people coming over by boat. You know, it's pointing the finger at other people. And it's dividing those of us that are scrabbling around at the bottom, trying to make a living, trying to succeed and trying to survive. So it's just that lack of an alternative narrative. We are only hearing one thing on our mainstream media, whether it's radio or TV. And that's why left media is so important right now.
Curtis?
Yeah, I mean, look, so what we saw was 110,000, maybe 150,000 people participate in that Unite the Kingdom rally. Ironic name, by the way. There's nothing uniting about some of the speakers that were there. I mean, they were trying to divide the people based on religion and race. So, but of course, you know, it doesn't matter what these people say. You have to take them. You have to read between the lines of these people. But we do have to reckon with the fact that hundreds of thousands of people turned up, and I personally don't think. I mean, people are welcome to disagree. I don't personally think that every single person turned up was far right, but it is absolutely true. The speakers, Tommy Robinson included, are on the far right. We had Elon Musk calling from America, right? A South African billionaire talking about nationalism, which I find extremely ironic. And to me, what's happened is the right and far right are offering a narrative to the political establishment. Now, they are very much the political establishment, right? Reform Party, they say they're anti-establishment. They are very much the political establishment. But there's nothing mainstream about the left wing. The so-called mainstream left is the Labour Party. Of course, we know they're not left-wing. Centre-right, they've been parroting right-wing lines. They've completely sided with capital over the working class. But for the the British people, they see an alternative, which is in the right wing and far right, and they're being pulled to that. And it's really important what you said about the left wing media, which is what we're doing here. It's so important to offer that counter narrative to the far right, but also to Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. And that is the left wing talking about a redistribution of wealth and power. It's talking about taxing the rich. I think we should abolish billionaires. I don't think that's a particularly crazy idea. I'm sure you agree with me, right?
How many yachts can you have?
How many yachts can you have?
Well, exactly.
And
Can I come to Claudia now? Claudia, welcome. How are you?
To see you. I don't think I've seen you, Damien, without hair.
I think I had a little bit more last time we interviewed you. Yeah, I agree.
Good to see you all in Liverpool. You know, that's where obviously the Labour Party conference is. I think they're pretty uncomfortable in Liverpool with you all there, but your party will be there in November.
Yeah, yes, they will
So
indeed.
on this issue, you know, we're talking about fascism international. Actually, we've seen the rise of fascism across Europe, and what we're seeing is the spectre that's haunting both Britain and Europe is actually fascism. And this is funded by billionaires, billionaire capital, and enabled by the very institutions, actually, that are meant to protect democracy. And so what we're seeing is across Europe with the rise of fascism, we're seeing just really the tip of a monstrous iceberg. In Germany, 1 in 5 citizens, 20%, voted for the alternative the Alternative for Germany, which is a party officially classified by their own intelligence services as a confirmed right-wing extremist endeavor. So 1 in 5 people voted for that party. The fascist international, as I call it, has achieved what seemed impossible. Far-right parties now heading governments in 4 European states, Belgium, Italy, the Czech Republic, and Hungary. And so across the European Parliament, these movements are actually have actually captured over 20% of the vote we saw in 2024. So this is not a fringe phenomenon.
No.
It is the mainstream weaponization of hate. And that is what is on the rise here in Britain. And it's Britain's fascist awakening now this year. We're seeing the mother of all parliaments burn. You know, the oldest parliament in the world. Nowhere is the crisis, therefore, more acute than in Britain itself. And we saw, as your audience, your studio guests indicated, that on September the 13th, Tommy Robinson led 110, 150 fascists through central London.
That's
and
right.
People, racists, joined them.
Yeah.
The police confirmed as the largest far-right mobilization in British history, not seen since Oswald Mosley's British Union of Fascists marched through the East End in the 1930s.
Yeah.
26 police officers, seriously injured as fascist thugs rioted in Whitehall, no less. And Elon Musk, as your audience, as your studio audience indicated, Elon Musk addressed the Unite the Kingdom rally remotely. This was no isolated incident at all.
No. The thing is, we're told that these movements are supposedly speaking for ordinary people. And when Tommy Robinson is on there dancing up and down like a goon next to this screen with Elon Musk on it, and there's all these people marching through London, for heaven's sake, you're thinking, well, hang on, maybe he is speaking for ordinary people then, because there's so many of them marching with him. But how do you think far-right rhetoric has been able to effectively turn neighbour against neighbour here? How has that happened in our society? How has that managed to happen in Britain? Surely it was supposed to be sort of never again stuff, wasn't it? If I can come back to you first, Claudia.
This has been something that has been rising. London didn't just happen overnight. As I said, the Europe has been marching in this direction, but across the UK, from Epping to Liverpool, Manchester to Newcastle, spreading into London's Canary Wharf, and even places like Islington. We've seen the eruption of the far right, sustained far right disorder. The neo-Nazi Homeland Party, a splinter group from Patriotic Alternative, has organised protests outside asylum hotels, while Britain First coordinates Operation Raise the Colours, a nationwide flag planting campaign. The general public doesn't even realise how many different factions of the far right are organising. They weaponise patriotic symbols for racist racist and fascist recruitment. So we're seeing now fascists in Parliament. The electoral arithmetic is even more terrifying. Reform UK now polls at 30%. They got broadcast media in the form of GB News, just like the pattern that has emerged in Europe. And we saw Reformers at 30%, higher than Labour's 20%. If an election was held today, Nigel Farage would be the next Prime Minister, probably winning 311 seats, just 15 short of an all-right majority. So therefore, we are seeing in every aspect of an individual's life, from the media, from the political elite, and from the corporations, the billionaires that fund the three nexus of power. Every aspect of an individual's life is being told and cultured towards the far right rhetoric.
I just bring Bonnie in at this point.
Yeah,
I know
thanks.
you're champing at the bit to
I
say
am.
something here.
I am.
see it.
Look, we've got the leader of the Labour Party, the current Prime Minister, is quoting the Rivers of Blood speech. This is a really, really scary time for anyone who actually cares about other people. In my local high street, the flags went up on the lampposts and everything else, and people saying it's all about pride. And I actually said in the chat, I'm really concerned about what this is doing. They're clearly being put up to be provocative. Fine if you want to have pride, but it's a bit of a coincidence. All this is happening at the same time that we're seeing the rise of the far right. If it was a football match or a sporting event or something like that, fair enough, if that's what you want to do. I mean, I personally don't like it, but if you want to do that. But I think that these flags being put up everywhere is deliberately provocative. I'm very concerned about what it means. But also, talking of the Tommy Robinson march on the 13th of September, I think in the end about 24 people were arrested. There were massive acts of violence. There were attacks against the police. There was all sorts of lawlessness going on. And yet just the week before, over 900 pensioners were arrested for sitting on the floor holding up a piece of paper. There's something very wrong with the way that the establishment are managing this, and it has to be deliberate. I don't believe in coincidences like this.
No. Curtis?
Well, yes. I mean, it's extremely worrying what we're saying. This is a Europe-wide thing. We've seen the rise of fascism happen far earlier in Europe, and it's spilling over here. But we cannot ignore the foreign influences that's doing this. I mean, the reason why I brought up Elon Musk wasn't just to clown on the guy. It's very easy to do, but it's because we have, tech bros, oligarchs that are funding particular movements.
Yeah.
It's someone like Tommy Robinson isn't even a nationalist. I mean, this guy is pushing Islamophobia in favor of the state of Israel, and you've got many people within the political establishment, within the oligarchs who are pretty much beholden to Washington on foreign policy. So they have a direct incentive to push division, push Islamophobia, and I think in Tommy Robinson's case, to make people more sympathetic to Israel. And you just think there's no nationalist anymore. I mean, it's very much I find it quite ironic actually. They talk about their opposition to globalism. They got their globalism. I mean, that's what you saw at the march. So there is big money interests in this. And of course, to talk about GB News, I mean, we can't not discuss the media. I mean, this is why we're doing an alternative media, right?
Why we're here.
It's why we're here. GB News is sort of the symptom of the problem, though. It's overt far right sort of echo chamber. But we know it didn't start there. I mean, think about the papers like The Sun and the Daily Mail Express. For decades, there were migrant bashing. There were propaganda to divide the working class against people on religion, race, and creed. So this is a long time coming, but I think the conditions of the far right rising is happening now because people's material conditions are getting worse. There is no alternative narrative because the Labour Party have completely, abandoned their roots, but they won't fight the far right. I mean, their version of tackling reform is to ape their policy.
Actually, you make a really good point,
Yeah.
actually, if I can stop you there. Labour not fighting back, aping them in a sense, and it's little wonder, therefore, where people are thinking, well, hang on a minute, why should I take these lot any more seriously than just another noisy braying mob in the street, for example? What's so special about them? Why should I worry? Is it too easy to shrug this off?
It's an abdication of responsibility to do so. Look, the reason why the Labour Party do this, they are so hell-bent on being the grown-ups in the room, right? They feel like if we turn to the right, the media pundits will love us. They think that's the grown-up thing to do. They think left-wing politics is student politics. They say it themselves. But what they don't understand is very short-termism, is they are facilitating the movement of the Overton window to the right wing. So, I mean, we'll discuss it later on in the show, but when it comes to migration policy, reform will bring up a right-wing migration policy. And instead of the Labour Party, the Liberals defending migrants, they will say, we're going to try and chase those voters that they're not going to get, by the way, and agree with them. Maybe not be quite as harsh, but all that does is move the window to the right. And the far right and Reform know that. I mean, their goal wasn't just to talk about quote unquote illegal migration or irregular migration. That was the starting point. Now they're going to go for legal migration. And we could end up in a world where we're talking about ethno-nationalism as a mainstream talking point because there is no pushback, and the Labour Party will not push back on that.
And of course, the classic example has just happened in the last few days. Yesterday, Keir Starmer, of course, was saying that Nigel Farage is a racist for declaring right to remain.
Yeah.
And now he's spoken to Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, and all of a sudden announced it today as something they're going to do. I mean, it's just so infuriatingly inept. I mean, the incompetence is off the charts. Bonnie, what do you make of this?
Look, if you want reform politics, people are going to vote reform. Like, there is no point in saying, well, what he said. Like, at the moment, they haven't. Although they've Reform and Nigel Farage have got a hell of a lot of money invested in what they're doing, they haven't really got the voice in Parliament yet. And my concern is we're ceding ground, we're paving the way for more and more right-wing representatives in Parliament. And that's a worry for all of us. That's a worry for, you don't know where the next attack's going to come. There's a poem, isn't there? First they came.
Yeah.
And we really need to remember that if they're attacking migrants, people of different ethnicities, people with different unique characteristics, it's a very slippery slope we're headed down.
Isn't it? Yeah. Claudia, can I come to you with another question? Because you've obviously spelt out exactly why we should be very much worried about everything that's going on and why it should be a concern to all of us. But when you have so much scaremongering in the press, for example, or on social media, the rumours and the conspiracy theories go around, how can we have honest conversations about showing that this is not the policy of unite the kingdom, this is dividing the kingdom? How can we turn this conversation around and fight back when literally the government isn't going to do that?
Yeah. Look, just one correction for you. You said that the Labour Party was objecting to right to remain. Actually, they weren't objecting to right to remain. They said it was racist because of Reform's policy on repatriation. So they were allowing some elements of the racist agenda of Reform. That is not good enough. We can't give an inch to fascism at any point. And what we're talking about is capitalism actually in its final stages. This is really, and it's its most dangerous stage, which is fascism and racism writ large. And that's what we've got to recognize. What we're dealing with is the capitalist state are turning into probably an explosion. And it's going to take a movement at the grassroots to bring about the change that we want to see, because we cannot rely on our political elite, on our politicians to deliver the change that is necessary. In fact, you've got somebody like Ben Habib, who used to be a member of Reform, left Reform because he describes he set up something called Advanced UK, which is described as more extreme than Reform because Farage, he says, isn't right-wing enough. And apparently some members of Reform have defected to this new Advanced UK party. So everybody is moving further and further to the right. And Advanced UK say they're going to replace Reform. The fascists have moved into Westminster. From Westminster to our streets, we're seeing this happening. What we're witnessing in Britain mirrors a coordinated international strategy. This is not an accident. The same billionaires that capital funded AFD in Germany with 123 million euros, also bankrolled Tommy Robinson, also bankrolled the French far right. We're talking about, as Chris has indicated, Elon Musk. He doesn't just endorse Germany's confirmed extremist party. He directly addresses British fascist rallies with his platform, radicalizing extremists. You know, we're talking about the X platform. 86% of extremists are radicalized on the X platform alone. This is what we're dealing with. The digitalization of fascism is also a significant problem. We have got to therefore mobilize, and that is why we need to have a change in our politics, and that's why we need to support not only our left media, because our media is delivering racism and fascism, we have to support a left alternative politics as well. And we have to call out the billionaires. And the last time that I said we should abolish billionaires, they ran the story, of course, all over the Telegraph and ridiculed me on social media as well. But that is exactly, Chris, I agree, what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
The anti-racist movement on the 13th of September was just 20,000 strong. That was the counter-protest against the 150,000 fascists, a 5-1 defeat that Stand Up to Racism acknowledges is an urgent wake-up call for us all.
It absolutely
And
needs to be. You're quite right. And obviously your point with the billionaires coming after you, clearly you pressed the right buttons, because they wouldn't come after you otherwise. And they own the media at the end of the day, don't they? Curtis, what would you like to add to that?
Well, I think it's really important to just, like, the digitalization of fascism is a really good, important point. I mean, think of Twitter, for example. Now, I don't like the fact that social media is owned by oligarchs. I wasn't happy under the previous owner. But under Elon Musk, he has quite literally manipulated the algorithms to bolster far-right accounts. There are accounts that were banned for literally posting Nazi content, and now they're allowed to go free. Part of that machinery as well is misinformation. There are so many lies out there that go unchecked. And even if people are on Twitter like me, I'm probably on there too much, but people who spend their times on Twitter, if there is something that's incorrect, there is a little thing underneath where people can, it's called a community note, where people can say whether it's correct or not. And even Elon Musk is looking at probably removing that or fixing it. When it comes to Grok, the AI thing, he'll put in a prompt and it will say something correct, and he's like, oh, we need to change that. It is the fact that power from these billionaires have the control of communication. And it serves the far right, because the far right are friends of capital, friends of the billionaires. They don't pose a threat to them. Socialists and the left do. And it's not surprising that Claudia was attacked in the billionaire-owned press when she said there shouldn't be billionaires. It's very simple, it's very straight up.
Yeah. Bonnie?
Yeah, look,
Comment on that?
completely agree. We need a solid socialist media, but we also need to take these conversations into every space and every community and occupy every conversation. We have, Damien and I shared a taxi when we arrived at the train station the other day, and we had a conversation with a taxi driver. It was very interesting. He was saying, oh, there's a hostel opposite my house and I'm worried for my daughter to go to school, so we might move to Australia. I said, so what, you want to be an immigrant in Australia? What would apply to you when you're there? What are you talking about? And I pointed out as well, you might be concerned about your daughter, but it's not the people in the refuges that you need to be worried about. I just reminded him of Sarah Everard, who was obviously famously kidnapped, raped and murdered by a serving British police officer. So it's in every part of the fabric of our society. We need to have those conversations. You know what, sometimes they might seem fruitless, but you never know when you might sort of just chip into what they believe and make them question themselves and their values. And maybe that way you win change. But urgently, we really need to be getting the message out ourselves everywhere. To have these conversations, talk in the shop, talk on the bus, talk wherever you are. Explain to people that this is not going to help them. If every migrant was got rid of, whether they're legal or illegal, would your life actually be better? And the answer is, well, no.
Well, that's it. Right, we're coming up to the end of this segment now. So one final question to put to each of you for a brief response. If you had one message to leave people here with about resisting the division of the Tommy 10 names of our country and the Nigel Farages and whoever else, frankly, and reclaiming solidarity and unity, what would it be? Start with Bonnie.
Turn up, join your union, get active.
Curtis?
I like that, join a union. I think actually we should look at the real minority, which is the cause of our issues. And once again, it's the billionaires and the oligarchs, you know. And that is a unifying figure. It's the 99% versus the 1%. So we should look at people from different ethnicity, different religion. We may have disagreements. And we say, look, at the end of the day, those that control our lives are the bosses, are the tech billionaires. And that's the minority you need to worry about, not people on small boats, because your life will not improve. In fact, you're doing the bidding of the media class and the billionaires. They want you to be angry at immigrants and refugees.
Yeah. Claudia, I'll give you the last word on this.
Well, look, we're in the most dangerous stage of capitalism, more dangerous than any previous racist party. But history teaches us that fascism can be defeated not through liberal compromise or centrist accommodation, but through organized working class resistance and international socialist solidarity. We've got the scale of what we're dealing with means that we have to go large, and we need a revolution.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to each of my guests today for their fantastic input. Thank you so much for Claudia Webbe for finding time in your busy schedule. I know you're enormously busy, so thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to Bonnie. Thank you to Curtis. Next up, we are talking Palestine, first of two programs that we're going to be covering today and tomorrow. And I'm still going to be hosting it, so I'm sorry, you've still got to put up with this face for a little bit longer. Back in a bit.